Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Investment Clinic Live. Today we're hosting Xavier Pierluca, who's a managing partner at SIMA Funds, based in Geneva, managing partner for Europe. Hi Xavier. Can you hear us?
I can hear you well, Brindusa. Hello. It's very nice to be connected with you today and with everybody on the line.
Super. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Brindusa Burrows. I'm the founder and CEO of the Ground Up Project here in Switzerland. And we are hosting the Investment Clinic Live as part of our new product, the investmentclinic.com, focused on providing investor readiness services to impact entrepreneurs worldwide. Just by way of introduction, the Investment Clinic started because we realized that investment readiness was the #1 challenge of impact ventures, and that it actually narrowed investable impact deal flow considerably. A very small percentage of ventures actually that we come across are ready to be introduced to investors. And therefore the clinic provides knowledge, but also services through experts that work on a freelance basis with startups and impact ventures on their financial modeling, on their revenue models, feedback on investment teasers, anything that an impact entrepreneur needs when they enter the fundraising phase or when they prepare for the fundraising phase. And so the clinic lives are an opportunity to meet with investors, listen to their strategy, learn about how they select deals and what they're looking for. And if you are an impact entrepreneur looking to raise money, this is an opportunity to get prepared and understand what is it that you need to put in front of the investor. I was saying the Investment Clinic is a product of the Ground Up Project, which is a deal sourcing platform. The most important aspect of it for an entrepreneur is that the Value Compass is an online algorithm that helps you as an entrepreneur self-assess your investment readiness. Go through the questions and you will see what an investor expects you to know or to understand before you start getting in touch with them regarding your fundraising. And access to the Value Compass is free. Xavier, just to introduce you very quickly, you've got 20 years of experience, 13 of which are in the field of impact investing. And this is really remarkable. I don't think there are many people out there who can actually count that many years, especially in impact investing. Most recently, you were Chief Investment Officer for Bamboo Finance, is one of the largest professional investors in the space, and you grew in the team up to becoming Chief Investment Officer in 2012, did lots of investment, divestment transactions, you worked in large partnerships. Most recently, you structured a fund, the Bamboo Financial Inclusion Fund, and that was before you left for joining SEMA. This is really a remarkable trajectory. Is there anything in your sort of past that you can share that made you turn from, let's say, mainstream investment to impact investment? What is the thing that actually made you switch 13 years ago?
Well, no, thank you, Brindusa. So it's a very nice and introduction, and quite sincerely, I mean, I'm humbled by it. I have been indeed working for several years in that space. But I think, there are many people that have engaged in the space of impact investing, and it's today quite a vivid sector, right? Both from the social enterprise and the investor standpoint as well. I guess most of the people, like me, we have switched from mainstream finance to impact finance or sustainable finance. I've done it for reasons that are linked to wanting to have an impact, really. I mean, wanting to change the lives of people around them or further away from them in emerging economies, for what is my case, at least. The reason, when you're involved in M&A or strategy consulting with firms like Deloitte and Ernst & Young, or investment banks is you don't really see actually a result of your work to start with, and most of the times I was kind of tired of enriching rich people, so to speak. So I felt that maybe finance, could help also resolve some of the problems of the world. And we see, that basically it's actually not that not difficult to structure funds, that are need driven, right, or demand driven, and taking into account that there are 1.5 to 2 billion people out there globally that don't have access to basic products and services, being healthcare, education, access to energy, financial services, you name it, right? So the need is there, the demand is there as well. The question is how to structure the right business models to tackle the need, and how to structure the right financing to attract investors to these sectors as well. And I think we haven't yet answered these questions. We are trying to working every day towards that accomplishment.
I think we definitely share the belief that finance can make an impact, and especially when we work with the entrepreneurs that come to the Ground Up Project platform or to the investment clinic, we see this very often as, impact investment is from the point of view of an entrepreneur that wants to realize social environmental impact, the way to provide, get the resources that they need in order to grow. Now, I'd love to move in because we have on the call today, we have quite a few people. A lot of entrepreneurs have signed up. Also, some people from the investment space. Let's put down a few of the basics, if you will. SIMA Funds that you left Bamboo Finance to start to move into SIMA is focused on demand-driven commercial capital, or so you say. So, what is the scope of SIMA Funds? I'm sort of switching between the questions that we see on the screen now, because it's a nice continuation into what you were saying just a minute ago. But what is the scope of SIMA Funds, and how should an entrepreneur prepare in order to present to you? And that's one of the questions that comes very often in what the entrepreneurs wanted to ask you today.
So yeah, definitely. In what relates to SIMA, as a whole, as an advisory and asset management company. So we are engaged in these two activities, right? Today on the asset management front, we are basically managing a fund that lends to off-grid solar companies and microfinance companies as well, in order to further basically the development, the outreach of individual access to energy solutions to the low income and the lower middle income segments in Africa and in Asia. So we are lending to companies that are what we call off-grid solar companies, and that are designing these pico solar products, the small solar lamps, but also the solar home systems as well. And we operate basically with financing throughout the value chain. So we finance the vertically integrated companies that design, manufacture, distribute these products. We also, finance companies that are just involved in distribution. And we finance microfinance companies that are offering, their networks, their branch network, and to distribute the products and the service to the clients, but also participate in the financing as well of these products. So that's the main mandate of SIMA today. We have raised the fund last year. We have already deployed close to 3/4 of the capital that was raised in the first closing. We're now engaging in a second closing with several investors. Maybe to say a word about the investors. So they're fairly diversified in terms of type of investors. We have pension funds, insurance companies, family offices, foundations, high net worth individuals as well, and some impact investors that have been in financing the space for a while. The goal was to find, the right design for the fund, the right structure, which is a tranche structure, it very much resembles a CDO in order to attract differently motivated investors with different risk-return profile per the categories I mentioned earlier.
What was the size of the first close, if I may ask? What was the size of the first
closing
close?
was the first close was $42 million, and now we are targeting $75 to $80 million with the second closing as well. And we're engaged in the second closing already with AXA and Bio as two anchor investors for the second close. First closing investors were FMO, MetLife, Church Pension Group. These were the principal investors. But really the target is individualized access to energy solutions. So at this stage, we're not looking at mini grids or microgrids, basically. We are contemplating a few rooftop solar eventually activities, but we haven't done a transaction yet, right? So it's really Pico Solar and Solar Home Systems mainly.
What makes off-grid solar a good investment opportunity today?
Well, I think there we should go back to the, demand-driven or need-driven, right, concepts. With 1.2 billion people not having access to electricity and energy, there is, the demand then, or need, then you need to create the demand and you need to generate affordability for it. Off-grid solar, these individual access solutions, they are made affordable to the clients, to the people, for several reasons. I mean, the price of solar panel has gone down tremendously over time. The battery prices have gone down and are more and more efficient. There are several batteries now, that have a life of 5 to 7 years. And with the financing, I mean, basically with the debt financing that a fund like SIMA can offer, and many other participants in the market, we are able to basically tranche, the pricing over time for clients to allow them to pay by installments on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Products that range, from $150 for the solar home systems up to $1,500 to $3,000 for the larger one. That can also help, powering some tools for productive use. So you have basically a demand-driven, and product, and you have also an affordability that is made possible for the target clients, low income and lower middle income, to afford these products. Affordability is definitely a key element, right, when you think of emerging markets. So it is a good investment today because there's a need for it, there's a demand for it. It's affordable. Clients and people can buy it, they can access the product and the service, right? And as a result, we can generate sustainable business models that are profitable, that are growing fast, and that are very attractive for investors also. So through this type of sector investment, we achieve, our goal of economic return and impact and access, to a product, an essential product for the target population.
That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? And it leads me into some of the questions that came through from participants. And I have to ask anyone who is online today, if you'd like to ask more questions, please use the chat window. We are collecting questions and we'll try to package them. If there are other questions than the ones you have seen, you have sent through, or the ones that you see on the screen right now. So let's go through some of these. The key question from entrepreneurs was, how do you invest and what do you require from entrepreneurs? If you were to make this very concrete, let people know how you work and what they need to prepare for you, could you describe that in a fairly succinct way?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first of all, it's important to create, to have a business model that makes sense. A business model, that can be sustainable over time, and something that also has been tested, right? For us at least. What happens is that we find ourselves, or at least with that very specific mandate, at dealing with companies that are already at a stage of maturity, having passed, let's say, several series, A, B, C series in equity, and that are already have, several years of financials behind them, and have piloted a product, business model that is fairly tested today, even if some of the companies are not yet fully profitable, but they're close to break even or close to profitability. I say that because, the venture world, the pure venture debt world or venture equity world, right, versus, the maturities of the companies we target and the way fund managers operate is very distinct in terms of the analysis that is being conducted, the requirements, etc. But nonetheless, it's very important for us, when we get in touch with an entrepreneur to first receive a teaser that is, just a few pages long, where we understand what the business is all about, what is, the team behind, and how is it composed, basically. The team, is a key element of success in a business, people, and abilities to achieve, on a vision, a mission, or a business plan, just generally speaking. We want to have a sense of a track record. We want to have a sense of the business model, if they have piloted already a project. What are the results behind it? Is it profitable? Is it sustainable? Can it be replicable? Can it grow fast? And then do we believe that it can sustain debt capital, being, a debt manager today, at least with that very specific mandate. And so these are the key elements, that basically we want to see in a teaser, just to understand on our end, if we can contemplate, engaging further with the entrepreneur and the business. Once, that stage is, let's say, completed, then we want to receive, of course, more information that we would analyze, basically from our offices. So financial statements, some specifications about the product and services they offer, some business plans, where the strategy is further defined, the market is further defined as well, projections also, and all, basically operational elements that are important for us to assess, basically the investability of the organization. And if, this is satisfactory as well for us, then we want to have a further on the ground, operational due diligence to really engage with the entrepreneur, with the businesses, and all of the participants of the business, all the stakeholders. So from the shareholders, the directors, the managers, the clients as well, the middle managers, just, the employees, and assess, the viability, sustainability before we make an investment decision. So that's more or less, in trying to summarize in 1 minute the process, right? But most fund managers would work with the same approach at the end of the day. But the first step, of having the right, teaser and approach, and maybe having tested already your model, before you engage with an investor, I would say is essential, just to make sure that you are not engaging too soon as well, and that you have the right, summarized, basically documentation to engage with an investor, which would have very little time. Not us specifically, but most fund managers would be approached, by potential investment opportunities, at least, let's say 5 to 10 times a week, of new, participants in the market that are requesting or requiring funding. And not all of them are ready, unfortunately. And some of the teasers are discarded, or some of these companies are discarded very early on, even if, because of lack of preparation sometimes, even if, they could be very successful, and it's a missed opportunity for them and for the fund manager, as a result.
Right. And I think that also probably goes a long way to the entrepreneur knowing what the investor is looking for. So understanding very well the scope of its investment and, whether or not this is appropriate, it is appropriate to approach them as well. I think this covers also one of the questions that said, what are the keywords to succeeding? You've mentioned some of the key aspects. Let me ask you something that I haven't seen in participants' questions, but what is the geographic scope, and would you expect the same kinds of information from a business, say, registered and operating in sub-Saharan Africa, as you would from a business registered and operating in, let's say, Europe or North America?
I would say that yes is the short answer, and at the same time, no. I mean, yes, to the extent that the business plan, the teaser, the business model needs to be presented in as professional, right, or as in-depth manner, independently of the geographic, I would say, context in which you operate. Of course, in several markets, access to information and data is not always easy. But surprisingly, by the way, access to private equity data in Switzerland is almost impossible to get access to. It's very difficult, right? Yeah. So I'm saying this because one could believe that you access data and information more easily in some markets than in others, but depending what you look into or the sectors, it's easier to get information about microfinance in Pakistan than it is to access PE data in Switzerland. That's true. For that matter.
That's true.
But yes, in terms of professional, presentation format and content, it should be prepared, pretty much the same way, independently of the geographies. Demonstrating that you understand and you know your business model well and why it's going to be successful is really the key concept.
Mm-hmm. What is the ticket size?
Well, with the current fund that we manage, we look at the ticket from $100,000 really up to $7.5 million. So most of the tickets are actually around $4 to $5 million and above. But we have basically a guarantee from an organization based out of Africa that is backed by development financial institutions that allow us as well to work with smaller distributors that operate, in early stage markets in Africa for the distribution of solar home systems. And we are engaging currently with 2 opportunities at $100,000 levels, for example.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Now, here are 2 questions about partnering. One came through before the session. Are you open to partner with technology providers supplying off-grid air-to-water generator? And then the other one has just come through online, and it talks about whether you are available to connect manufacturers of off-grid products with businesses that you've already invested in order to explore opportunities to improve product offering. So maybe just let's just focus on these 2.
Yes, of course. I mean, to the first one, unfortunately not. From what I see in the question, at least the way I read it now, supplying off-grid air-to-water generators. So air-to-water, so we're really looking at off-grid solar on our end, right? And as I indicated, access to energy via individualized solutions, because solar home systems mainly. Now, this being said, we also are engaging with off-grid solar products that are being used, in the space of agriculture, right? For irrigation purpose, for example. So anything that is powered by solar, right, potentially could be considered. If it's hydro, wind, or anything else that's not the scope of the current fund. I'm not saying we would not engage, further down the line in basically a mandate or trying to design the fund around the concept of off-grid energy independently of the source of power, but it's currently not the case. Relating to the second question, that's a good one. Yes, actually, we are basically already linking up several manufacturing companies of solar home systems, pico solar lamps, even batteries and solar PVs with distributors and other participants in the industry. We also engage in freeway financing with manufacturing companies, distributors, and the fund. So that is definitely something that we're engaged in, and we feel that this is a sector that has been originally very much vertically integrated, where the only participants in the sector were companies that designed, manufactured and distributed their products and financed them as well. So if you think about it, it's like almost four business models embedded into one. And there is a vertical disintegration that is happening slowly, but facilitating it, because we believe that specialized business models and businesses can be more profitable, and we can also, through that mechanism, further the outreach and the growth of the sector, allowing, more participants engaging in early stage markets as well, which you cannot do if you're only vertically integrated, right? So we are supporting that movement, that wave, both through financing and linkages. So yes, we will do that.
Super. Well, that's a question that came from Christopher Johnson of ifpeople.net. Now here's another one from Benjamin Galazzo. This is Vertec Capital, based in Asia. So, are you exploring opportunities to finance blockchain-based solar microgrids? I think you covered that microgrids was not in the scope of SIMA, but it's interesting. Are you looking at blockchain-based solutions?
We have not yet looked at blockchain-based solution at all. I have myself looked at blockchain through other models that were linked to money providers, mobile money providers, actually in Africa, several years ago, but not, anything related with energy yet. Microgrid is not the core mandate of the funds, so we could do it on an exceptional basis. What we know of microgrids so far and mini-grids as well is that the financing requirements in terms of maturity are much longer than what the fund can currently offer. We cannot go past 2021, October 2021. And in most cases, micro and mini grids have required financing, in order to be sustainable, that is closer to 5 years. Mm-hmm. So very happy to look, further into the detail of that, of course, and to, of course, to be contradicted, and we are always happy to be wrong, It demonstrates that, things are evolving, the sector is evolving in new directions, and that technology or, several elements are allowing maybe to shortcut, the time to profitability of different models. So happy to look into it, definitely, but I have to say that wouldn't be a priority for the fund today, in our mandate, right? Mm-hmm. But not something we would discard from the get-go.
Sounds good. I have to say, looking at the clock, that because we started a little bit later, I'd like us to go for another 2 to 3 minutes, just to make sure we do have our 30 minutes of conversation. So just looking at the questions we had received previously, there was one about pay-as-you-go. I think you covered that this is pretty much within the scope. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, particular to pay-go off-grid projects?
So pay-go, is definitely at the core of the mandate of the fund, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you'd like, to start with the concept of course, extending financing, to a client in order to create the concept of affordability for products, right? Then pay-go, which embeds also the concept of service, right? And paying on a usage basis is definitely something that we are very much involved with, because many off-grid solar companies have implemented or are implementing PAYGO solutions. They all have their unique, specificities when it comes to PAYGO and the way the programs are designed, but more or less it's well understood now. And I actually believe, and we do believe at SIMA, that PAYGO can be implemented for several others, products and services. There are, software as well that have been developed for the purpose of monitoring the portfolios of PAYGO, off-grid solar, products that can be used, right, with the concept of geolocalization to finance and to engage in micro-leasing of many different other products. And my guess would be that PAYGO is replicated, in many different areas going forward, independently of energy.
So thank you for that one. And here's the last one that came from Govinda at LED Safari. It pretty much says, do you engage in capacity building? And it particularly refers to how difficult it is to actually get a team together and train a team together. So would you say a few words about capacity building and any kind of work that you do with companies in that respect? And let's make that our last question. Unfortunately, I know there are many others, and we could discuss for longer. Perhaps in the future we need to reconsider how long these sessions are. But let's focus on that as the last question, if that's all right with you.
So what we currently are doing, when it comes to capacity building, I have to say is not very extent, right? We are getting technical assistance in order to work with third-party, very specific providers to cater to the needs, operational needs, that could be related to software, to loan portfolio monitoring, or many other, operational elements. But we tend, if you'd like, to outsource the capacity building to specialized firms that have a unique expertise in one very specific, item of operation, in order for the target companies to get the best possible service. When it comes to capacity building that we offer, what we mainly look into is, financial structuring. It's, good use of capital overall, right? And anything that relates to financial statements. Because we often, receive, or we have received business plans that, or even financial statements that were not fully, if you'd like, comprehensible. So we provided some help in some cases to entrepreneurs, but that's not something that we like to be doing. Nonetheless, we provide advisory work on the side at SIMA, and we have engaged, with companies to revise their business plan, to provide, support in terms of business plan drafting as well. But this is in exchange for a fee. It is not something that we do, as part of our fund mandate per se.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for clarifying all these things. I feel that the discussion is just getting going, but I do appreciate taking a bit of time of your very busy week to answer the entrepreneurs' questions. Thank you all for joining and asking questions. And if you do have other questions that were unanswered, we will make note of these and somehow try to address them. If you are interested in becoming visible to investors and eventually for Xavier to take a look at your business, if it matches the scope of SIMA Funds, do sign up to the groundupproject.net. There's a free value compass score. You can do your self-assessment in terms of investment readiness. We do also offer, if you would like to be verified by the team of the Ground Up Project, and there is the contact here, info@groundupproject.net. You can write to us, and that in many cases increases the chance of being contacted by investors, because we would actually do the work of checking your documentation first. And finally, if you need any assistance in preparing your fundraising, In many of the issues that were raised today or are raised generally with your teasers or financials and so on, the investment clinic can help you with a range of experts to get the lay of the land correctly set so that you can increase your chances of contacting the investor. Xavier, once again, thank you so much for taking the time today.
No, thank you, Brendusa. And I mean, I'm very happy to participate. And the Ground Up project is, I think, highly necessary, right, in order to make sure that more companies get access to funding in impact investing. And maybe just a word, from us as a fund manager to entrepreneurs, we're also, in the same, if you'd like, a similar situation. We are also seeking always to raise money from larger investors that can be channeled to your companies. So we very much, go for the same, I would say, roller coaster, when it comes to fundraising. So don't worry if an investor says no once, you can always go back. It's not because, for example, at SIMA, we would not consider a project today that we would not be happy to reconsider 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years from now as well. Because investors' mandate constantly evolves, and because your companies will also grow as well, making it possible not to reconnect. So it's always good to keep in touch, I shall say, and to maintain the relationship.
That's great. Thank you so much for that approach and for your openness. All right. Thank you all for connecting today. I shall leave you with the date of the next Clinic Live. Write down your agendas, 24th of May, 3 p.m. Central European time. We will be talking to Kostis Telenis, Head of Investment at Quadia Impact, also based out of Switzerland. Thank you all. Have a great day wherever you are.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.